You've got 3 leading employers up here, global employers. You've got the head of a further education institution that reaches over 9,000 learners. You've got Kate, who is the employer voice for a very large global sector. This is your opportunity to ask the questions that you would like them to answer. So just the point being, could people stick to a question, not a statement? We have lots of opportunities later today to share information in the workshops. So I'd like questions to be short and just one question, because we've got a large number of people who may want to ask other questions. So we've got 4 people with mics here, so 1 in each quarter. Who would like to start? Be really brave. It's a skill. It's a global skill in communication with the first question. So we've got gentleman there and the lady at the back. Could you say your name and which country you're representing, please?
Good morning. This is Ali Raza Khan. I am the founder and CEO of YES Network Pakistan. YES stands for Youth Engagement Services. Well, I have been listening to all of you. You made very good points throughout your discussion. One thing I think we missed is the paradigm. Because when we say that, there's a mismatch between skills, I think it's not a mismatch of skills, it's a mismatch of paradigm. Because young people coming out from different families, institutions, they live in a different paradigm. And it's the paradigm which basically controls their effectiveness, it controls their productivity, controls their result. How important it is to see the paradigm in which they live. Because I've seen in my life, while working with young people, they have all the degrees in the world. They are fully skilled, but they are unable to give it back to the society because it is their paradigm which controls them. When you say that, we want to get it right. If, for example, we get it right, do we have the capacity to accommodate all these millions of children and students who are coming out of universities? How we are going to accommodate all of them?
Okay, so your question, and you're going to have a chance to share a lot of your perspective in the workshop, so thank you very much, is how do we look at it from the young person's perspective? Have I got that right?
I'm just thinking about the paradigm in which they live and they're brought up.
Okay.
Because what counts doesn't count. You just count the degrees and skills. Okay. But resilience, the self-determination, problem solving, all these skills are not counted.
Okay, so how do we consider the environment the young person lives in? Yeah. Thank you very much. Right, panel members, who would like to answer that? Go on, David.
No, thank you. I agree that it's, I think when you talk about a paradigm shift in anything, you're talking about a bigger picture. And I think that's true. And I think, the skills mismatch and the, you could relate that at the next level up or several levels up as a paradigm change into what industry and business requires compared to what is being provided by education. And therefore, I think, this is just the institutional aspect of the same individuals considerations that we're making, that we've all got a responsibility to work together to ensure that the routes to market for students in coming out of education are adequate and are required by business. So yeah, I agree that this is a systemic problem, and I agree that it's not just about the individual students, but it is a general problem that we've got to resolve.
Tony, I see you'd like to respond to that.
Yeah, I think it's a very important issue, and I think we've got to acknowledge that the society that we're living in now and the young people are growing up in is a very different society to even one that was around 10 years ago. It's a culture of instance. Everything is accessible very, very quickly. If you wait for 24 hours for something, it seems like a long time. What we've tried to do is try to take a step back from that in Harrow, and we get all our students, all our full-time learners to get themselves involved in a social enterprise challenge each year. And we call it the Harrow College Charity Challenge, where they've got to come together as a group. They've got to identify a project, it's sort of a minor business plan. It wouldn't be a fully formed business plan in the way that, say, you'd be looking, even though, as you said, you don't look at that, you look at the person, which is quite interesting. I'm going to bring that away. And then get them to raise money for a chosen charity. Now, why do we do this? It's because I think of the context of trying to enforce, maybe through the back door, the role that young people have in society going forwards. It's not just about aspiration and achievement on that social ladder, going up through employment, gaining, hopefully, a good job with good income, enable them to provide whatever. It's all about the societal responsibility, which I think sometimes can be ignored in a culture which is increasingly consumerist. Now, I think that's reflected and is on different stages wherever you are in the world, but I think it is important that the social context in which the young people are operating in is reflected through their educational and indeed, I would understand, through their work experiences, which is why corporate social responsibility is such a big issue now that possibly was done in a different way in times past.
Thank you very much, Tony. So David said about considering the environment as all key stakeholders in this. Tony's discussed ways in which Harrow College has looked at fostering and tapping into young people's passions and the social environment around them. Thank you. The lady at the back, could you say your name, organisation and your question, please?
Xin chào, tôi là Nguyễn Phượng, phóng viên báo Công Thương của Bộ Công Thương. Tôi có hai câu hỏi mang tính chất một chút vĩ mô cho ông David và ông Nguyễn Hồng Trường, đại diện cho hai doanh nghiệp lớn ở Việt Nam. Thứ nhất, dưới quan điểm của các nhà doanh nghiệp của ông thì ông nhìn nhận như thế nào về việc thiếu hụt kỹ năng sẽ ảnh hưởng đến năng lực cạnh tranh cũng như là sức hấp dẫn đầu tư của thị trường Việt Nam, đặc biệt là sau khi năm 2015 cộng đồng kinh tế ASEAN được thành lập ạ?
Thank you very much. Great question. For David and Jung, how do you assess the skills gap within the Vietnamese market, particularly with 2015 on the horizon?
From my point of view, first of all, thank you very much for that question. It's a very interesting point. I think there is a big skills gap in the Vietnamese market at this particular point in time, and I think this is one of the key opportunities within forums like this to take the agenda forward and to try and bridge that gap going forward, because it is an area of Vietnam's economic development that needs to be overcome in the next few years in order for Vietnam to reach its potential. So, I think across the market, what we need to see is international standard education and vocational skills reaching international standards within Vietnam that supports the economic goals and the 20-year vision that the Vietnam government has established for their economic goals. I think, as an educationalist, I think you may need, or the organisations in Vietnam may need to think very much more proactively about how they are going to provide the resources for businesses to achieve their goals. And really, it's not saying anything different to the messages that we've been conveying already. It's about, what does business need? What does industry need? What do your major state-owned enterprises need to make them more successful going forward and to bridge that gap? There is a gap at the moment, and creating the right courses, doing the things that we said about creating work experience, getting businesses to engage more proactively on a day-to-day basis with education through things like career fairs, through things like businessmen going into talking about their experiences, talking about what they need, and actually being part of the learning process. Creating that link on a day-to-day basis is probably the most important thing that education can do in Vietnam to start to bridge that skills gap. You have 90 million people in Vietnam. You've got 70% of the population is below the age of 35. It's a very young environment. I was with the former head of the WTO. He made a great point about Vietnam. Vietnam's future is within the major resources of Vietnam. It's not like the Middle East. It's also represented here today, which is oil and minerals and everything like that. Your future is your young people. And building that capability of young people to deliver on the economic expectations of Vietnam is the most critical thing
So carrying on with the messages that we've been portraying this morning would be the key message from my point of view.
Yeah, so we all see that Vietnam is now having a lot of opportunities with the ASEAN communities, with the TPP, with all the bilateral kind of agreement between Vietnam and big economies of the world. Now the scheme, the labor scheme of Vietnamese people is really a factor that being like the key factor for the Vietnamese productivity. The good thing here is that because Vietnam now is a right spot for all the economy type activities, trade investment. So we have a lot of good investment flow in the next few years. And that would help Vietnam to have a certain buffer time for increasing the better skill for labor force. That is very important. We know in the next 3 years that it needs a good collaboration, not just from the institutional education or the government, but also from the industry to bridge that gap and be faster in the way to increase the productivity of Vietnamese labor force. So I truly believe that in the next 3 years we will receive a lot of opportunities and investment. But it also a window for us to increase the productivity and having better labor skill, so that after the next 3-5 years, the investment flows in stay in Vietnam and getting Vietnam to get even more businesses and more internationally being in the distribution of the commercial world in this integrated world, especially with the ASEAN and the TPP coming.
Thank you very much. So I'm hearing be proactive, there's potential with a growing youth population and Vietnam's position in the regional market and global market. There's a lady over in the corner there. I've got a lady there.
My name's Jackie Page. I work in a large general further education college in the UK. My question is around enterprise and entrepreneurship, because we've heard a lot about jobs and people getting jobs, but we need to recognise that those jobs just aren't there anymore, and therefore we build enterprise and entrepreneurship into everything we do. How important do you, the panel, feel that is, so that we're training the new workforce to be self-employed and future business owners?
Brilliant question. Which panel member? Chung, you've got the microphone and you're a venture person. You're supporting the start of new businesses. How important is this? Creating the industries of the future.
Like I said earlier, the future of industry stay within the power of the youth. So everything that we are doing, and also it is also the same mind of every entrepreneur, that they have to answer the 3 key questions. What people do they have? What product will they do? And what is the impact of their business, the reason why they are being in the business. So answering that 3 questions, the people is always coming on top of everything. So to me, that is a very natural process that gives us a fundamentally great opportunities for collaboration to push for people and for entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs are the most smart people. They know where the opportunities are, and we just do the rest, and it's kind of easy job. Let's see it that way. Yeah.
Tony wants to respond, and while the mic is going back, very good question. Middle East and North Africa, growing youth population, not enough jobs for all those young people. It's a core priority on every government's agenda to foster entrepreneurial skills to grow enterprise, entrepreneurial skills that when people are within employment that drive forward business. So it's important for our region. But I'll hand over to Tony now he's got the mic.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think there's been a big push in the UK over the past few years to actually acknowledge the need for entrepreneurship education more widely than perhaps it was understood previously. And I would agree, it's not just for people that are looking to start their own businesses. That is obviously a key economic driver. As you know, for economic growth, it's not the large established companies, with the greatest respect to the colleagues sitting here, that drive economic growth. It's SMEs, and most of them are very small organisations which come out of the idea of one individual or a small group of individuals. What we try to do is talk to our students, particularly in areas of the college where that could be a really genuine opportunity, and say, how would you like to be an employer? Because that's the aspiration. We're not looking for a micro business with one individual. You're looking for those young people to move forward and then maybe look to other students, and I've got a selfish interest in this, in Harrow College, because I went there to come and bring along to my new business and help that grow and flourish. But it's also the other parallel real benefit of having entrepreneurship education as a key priority, like we do in Harrow, like obviously you do in your college as well. It's developing that entrepreneurial mindset amongst all students to make sure that they have that resilience, that understanding that, you know, not every business idea works. As we were talking yesterday in an off-mic session, you know, things that come out through accidents are often actually the greatest possible inventions. It's about not being afraid of failure, as long as you are prepared to learn from failure and not give up at the first opportunity. And that is the entrepreneurial spirit that got the great entrepreneurs who we could all talk about and reference now to where they are in the world today. So there are other skills that come out of entrepreneurship, not purely in terms of business startup, that I think makes it an extremely valuable, again, wrap around to main programs for all young people.
While the mic is passed to Charles, we've got a young entrepreneur in the room today from Tunisia, Taufik. Where are you? Testament. Person had a business where he employed 3 women. A couple of years later, now employing 40 women, trading regionally. Talk to him. That would be a good starting point. Charles.
I have to agree with everything that was said up to now. South Africa was in a similar position not very long ago, where globalization don't create jobs, unfortunately. But we had to, make jobs. And the only way to do that was, to develop entrepreneurs. And what we've done there was to really engage with government and, got them to provide funding and assist industry in, creating opportunities. And in our plants at the moment, we have socioeconomic development programs, but also major entrepreneurial developments where we identify, young college students, educated, that are self-drivers, self-starters, and that show leadership, capabilities and so on. And we develop them to then take over a part of the company and then to become like service providers to ourselves. We're very new in that, but it's a very real option to try, and it seems to be working.
Thank you very much. So what I'm hearing is governments need to create an environment to make it happen. Institutions need to support it happening and tap into that talent. Thank you. Gentleman there.
Thank you, British Council. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, speakers. My name is Anang. I'm from Bandung Institute of Tourism, Indonesia. So we do believe that tourism is one of the most promising sectors for the future generations. And I'm from education, so I do believe that education is the most effective weapon to improve the quality of life. So my question is in line with how to build the professional attitude. That is not easy. When we are talking about standards, that is truly easy to set up the standard, to meet the quality to the industry users. But the most challenging for the future time is how to set up, how to build the professional attitude for our young generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great question. And Kate has got the mic. Over to you.
Thank you. I think there's a number of things threading through this, which has come through quite a number of the questions. And I think setting out in your country first your labour market information and doing the research as to where the employers feel they need particular skills, where their skills priorities are, and then building on those in terms of setting a skills action plan. So the reason I bring that up is in most of the countries that I work in, one of the priorities that comes out top is customer service. You know, they all want customer service. Employers want that as a key factor. And also entrepreneurship, very, very important in the tourism industry, because you need to be, as I said earlier, keeping one step ahead of the customer. So whether that's green tourism, active tourism, grey tourism, all these different ways of attracting tourists back again and again are most important. The way that we normally do it is looking at the labour market information first and the skills foresight so that you can build an accurate workforce development plan. And then having a sector organisation which represents the employers in skills is very important to then take it to the next stages. We then build occupational standards which recognise the competency required in each of the job roles. And that enables you to start to build a picture and a profile of the jobs that are there and the jobs that are going to be there over the next 5 years, for example, and then to start to map your education process to it. So if, for example, that is about customer service, you can then start to look at what education is providing at the moment to match that. And if it's not there, begin to build that. So the occupational standards work as the basis of all your qualifications and your curriculum. And I think that's looking at education in the wider sense as well. So we've already heard about how important training on the job is, training in the workplace is, as well as in education, because things like customer service and entrepreneurship are much easier to explain and deliver in a workplace environment than they are in a classroom. So I think it's bringing those things together, but also you might want to think in your workshops about how you measure success. You know, if this is a journey, we talked about a journey earlier, how do you know when you've got there? You need to be very clear about how you're going to measure that and how you know that people are achieving that competency. And that might be something to look at in each of your countries as to how you might do that. So I think tourism's always a very good benchmark. It's very important, obviously, from an economic productivity point of view for all of your countries, I would imagine. And it's something that's not going away. It's going to stay there and can build, and it uses a lot of young people in order to deliver it.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have to apologise to the two gentlemen there. We've run out of time. Please, I'd like to get your questions from you, and we will post them to the panel and then possibly share them on our various digital platforms. So I'll grab you to get the questions, so you haven't escaped me. It just leaves me to say thank you to the panel. You've just seen them up here today, but this has taken 2 months to prepare the session, and they've invested their time to make this happen. So Charles, thank you very much. John, thank you very much. Kate, thank you. David, thank you. Tony, thank you. They're going to be here for the 2 days. Grab them, talk to them. But I'd like to leave you with Kate's final point. In your workshops, this is your opportunity to think about the challenges, but think about the potential you've got in all the young people that are within your sphere to influence. Think about education in the wider sense, and think about for yourselves, what does success look like and how will we measure that? And the word is we will measure that. Thank you, and I'm going to hand over to Cherry.